If you bought one of these 7 motorcycles in the last 20 years, I'm going to be straight with you. You got burned, and you're not the only one. Right now, riders everywhere are discovering that the engines they trusted with their lives were fundamentally flawed from day one. While some vintage bikes are appreciating in value, these particular motors are destroying themselves from the inside out. Veteran mechanics are calling these engines rolling time bombs. We're talking about designs so bad that manufacturers quietly discontinued entire model lines rather than fix the problems. 2.3 million motorcycles recalled across these 7 engines. Some seized before 15,000 miles. Others left riders stranded on highways when oil pumps failed without warning. So if you're still riding one of these death traps, you need to see this. Here are the 7 motorcycle engines that should never have left the factory floor. Subscribe now and hit that notification bell for more industry exposés. But before we start, have you been burned by any of these engines? Let me know in the comments below. Number 1. Honda CBR600RR, 2007 to 2012. Inline 4. The most shocking failure comes from the last brand you'd expect, Honda. For decades, Honda built its entire reputation on bulletproof reliability. This was the company that dominated MotoGP, powered championship-winning Formula One cars, and set the gold standard for motorcycle engineering. When riders bought a Honda, they expected it to run forever with minimal maintenance. That's what made the CBR600RR, Inline 4, such a devastating betrayal. The 2007 to 2012 CBR600RR was positioned as Honda's premier middleweight sport bike, a perfectly balanced machine that could dominate both street and track. On paper, the specs were impressive. 118 horsepower from a compact 599 cubic centimeter engine, impressive power-to-weight ratio, and Honda's reputation for reliability backing it all up. The motorcycle press raved about its handling and performance, but beneath that polished exterior lurked serious problems that Honda engineers knew about before these bikes ever hit showroom floors. Internal company documents later revealed that cost-cutting measures had compromised critical engine components. The cam chain tensioners were manufactured with inferior materials that wore prematurely, leading to catastrophic chain failure. When these tensioners failed, the timing chain would jump, causing valves to collide with pistons and effectively destroying the entire engine. Even more concerning was the oil pump design. Honda engineers had opted for a smaller, less expensive pump to save production costs. Under sustained high RPM operation, exactly how these sport bikes were designed to be ridden, oil pressure would drop to dangerous levels. This led to accelerated wear on critical engine bearings, often resulting in complete engine seizure without warning. Imagine hurtling down a highway at 80 miles per hour when your engine suddenly locks up. That's exactly what happened to hundreds of CBR600RR riders. The transmission was another disaster area. The gear teeth were machined from a harder but more brittle steel alloy, again, to reduce manufacturing costs. Under aggressive shifting, common during spirited riding or track days, these teeth would simply shear off. Riders reported finding metal fragments in their oil during routine maintenance, the first warning sign of impending transmission failure. What makes this particularly egregious is Honda's response. Despite over 400,000 affected motorcycles worldwide, Honda consistently denied warranty claims, blaming riders for improper maintenance or abuse. They classified most of these failures as normal wear and tear, forcing owners to pay thousands for repairs on relatively low-mileage machines. A former Honda engineer, who later became a whistleblower, confirmed that these problems were identified during development testing. Internal emails showed that executives made the decision to proceed with production despite engineering concerns, calculating that warranty claims would cost less than redesigning the engine. This calculated gamble with rider safety represents everything Honda supposedly stood against. The most damning evidence came from Honda's own dealer technical bulletins, which quietly instructed technicians on specific reinforcement procedures for these known failure points, while publicly denying any design flaws existed. By 2013, Honda had completely redesigned the CBR600RR engine, tacitly acknowledging the previous generation's problems without ever issuing a formal recall. For a company that built its empire on reliability, the 2007 to 2012 CBR600RR engine stands as perhaps the most shameful chapter in Honda's motorcycle history. Number 2. Triumph Speed Triple 1050, 2005 to 2010. The Triumph Speed Triple represented the British manufacturer's triumphant return to performance motorcycles after decades of struggling to regain relevance. This naked sport bike featured aggressive styling, a distinctive three-cylinder engine note, and handling that earned rave reviews from the motorcycle press. Triumph marketed it as the perfect blend of British character and modern engineering. But beneath its muscular exterior lurked a fundamental design flaw that would leave riders stranded and engines destroyed: a catastrophically poor oil pickup tube design. The Speed Triple's oil system featured a rigid pickup tube located in a fixed position within the oil pan. During aggressive cornering, precisely what this sporty naked bike was designed for, oil would slosh away from this pickup tube, causing momentary oil starvation to critical engine components. The consequences were devastating. Under hard cornering, especially during track days or spirited canyon riding, engines would experience seconds of zero oil pressure. This momentary starvation caused accelerated wear on main bearings and connecting rod bearings. Even more alarming, many engines seized completely mid-corner when oil failed to reach the cylinder head, causing catastrophic valve train failure. What makes this particularly inexcusable is that this problem had been solved decades earlier by other manufacturers. Almost every performance motorcycle uses baffled oil pans and flexible pickup tubes specifically designed to prevent oil starvation during cornering. Triumph engineers seemingly ignored this established engineering practice. When riders began experiencing these failures, Triumph's initial response was denial. Dealer service departments were instructed to blame failures on rider abuse or improper maintenance. Internal service bulletins directed technicians to check for evidence of redlining or inadequate oil changes to deny warranty claims. One Triumph technical director was recorded telling dealers that spirited riding isn't covered under warranty, a shocking stance for a company selling performance motorcycles. Only after multiple high-profile failures during motorcycle press track days did Triumph quietly acknowledge the problem. Rather than issue a proper recall, they released an optional performance upgrade kit that owners had to purchase. This kit included a redesigned oil pickup tube and baffled oil pan, components that should have been standard from day one. By 2011, Triumph had completely redesigned the engine's lubrication system, tacitly admitting the fundamental flaws in the previous generation. However, they never formally acknowledged the earlier design defects, leaving thousands of Speed Triple owners with potentially compromised engines and plummeting resale values. The 2005 to 2010 Speed Triple engine failures damaged Triumph's credibility just as they were rebuilding their brand. For a company attempting to reclaim British motorcycling pride, this self-inflicted wound represented a shameful failure of basic engineering principles. Number 3. BMW S1000RR, 2015 to 2018, Inline 4. When BMW entered the superbike market with the S1000RR, the motorcycle world took notice. Here was German engineering precision applied to the Japanese-dominated superbike category. BMW promised revolutionary performance combined with bulletproof reliability. The S1000RR featured cutting-edge electronics, asymmetrical styling, and a power plant that produced an astonishing 199 horsepower from its compact inline-4 engine. BMW's marketing emphasized German precision engineering and superior build quality to justify the bike's premium price tag. What owners got, instead, was a sophisticated but fundamentally flawed engine, plagued by multiple critical issues. The most serious problem affected the engine's rod bearings. BMW engineers had specified bearing clearances that were too tight, presumably to reduce engine noise, an admirable goal for a luxury car, but disastrous for a high-performance motorcycle engine. These tight tolerances left minimal room for oil film development between bearing surfaces. Under high RPM operation, these bearings would overheat and fail catastrophically, often destroying the entire engine in seconds. What made these failures particularly devastating was their unpredictability. Bearings would fail without warning, often at highway speeds and with no prior symptoms. One S1000RR owner documented his engine seizing at 75 miles per hour, causing a high-speed wobble that nearly threw him into oncoming traffic. BMW dealer records would later reveal over 200 similar catastrophic bearing failures. The electronic engine management system created another layer of problems. BMW's complex ride-by-wire throttle system suffered from programming glitches that caused sudden, unpredictable power delivery changes. Riders reported motorcycle power cutting out mid-corner, then suddenly returning at full force, a terrifying experience that led to multiple crashes. BMW initially denied these electronic gremlins existed, blaming rider error or fuel quality issues. Perhaps most damning was BMW's unprepared dealer network. When these sophisticated engines failed, owners discovered that many BMW motorcycle dealers lacked the specialized training and equipment to diagnose or repair these complex problems. Some owners reported waiting months for repairs as parts and expertise had to be sourced from Germany. One owner documented a 14-week wait for an engine replacement, during which BMW refused to provide a loaner vehicle. Internal BMW quality control documents, later leaked by a former employee, revealed that engineers had identified these bearing tolerance issues during pre-production testing. Management allegedly decided to proceed with the flawed design rather than delay the highly anticipated model launch. A BMW engineer was quoted in these documents saying the bearing tolerance issue was within acceptable failure rate parameters, essentially calculating that warranty claims would cost less than redesigning the engine. By 2019, BMW had completely redesigned the S1000RR engine with proper bearing clearances and updated electronics. However, they never issued a recall for the affected 2015 to 2018 models, leaving owners with potentially ticking time bombs and devastating resale values. For a premium brand built on engineering excellence, the S1000RR engine represents one of BMW Motorrad's most embarrassing failures. Number 4. Kawasaki ZX-14R, 2012 to 2020. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX-14R was designed with one primary purpose: to reclaim the title of world's fastest production motorcycle from the Suzuki Hayabusa. This hyperbike packed a massive 1,441 cubic centimeter inline, 4-engine, producing over 200 horsepower in a sleek, aerodynamic package capable of speeds exceeding 186 miles per hour. Though electronically limited due to a gentleman's agreement among manufacturers, Kawasaki marketed the ZX-14R as the ultimate expression of their engineering prowess, a reliable rocket ship for the street. What they delivered instead was an engine with fundamental cooling system deficiencies that led to persistent, catastrophic failures. The ZX-14R's Achilles heel was its woefully inadequate cooling system. For an engine designed to produce massive power for sustained high-speed runs, the radiator was simply undersized. Under extended high-speed operation, exactly how this bike was designed to be ridden, coolant temperatures would climb to dangerous levels. This overheating caused head gasket failures, warped cylinder heads, and in extreme cases, complete engine seizure. What made this particularly inexcusable was that Kawasaki engineers clearly knew about these cooling deficiencies. Internal technical documents later revealed that test mules had experienced similar overheating issues, but rather than redesign the cooling system, Kawasaki modified the bike's ECU to artificially reduce power output when coolant temperatures reached critical levels. Riders experienced this as mysterious power loss during extended high-speed runs, precisely when they expected their hyperbike to perform. When engines inevitably failed due to cooling issues, Kawasaki deployed a systematic warranty denial strategy. Dealer service bulletins instructed technicians to check for evidence of aggressive riding, or track use, to deny warranty claims. Owners reported being told that sustained speeds over 80 miles per hour constituted abuse, an absurd position for a motorcycle specifically designed for high-speed touring. Most egregious was Kawasaki's use of voluntary service campaigns to avoid formal recalls. When head gasket failures became too numerous to ignore, Kawasaki issued a technical service bulletin instructing dealers to inspect and, if necessary, replace head gaskets on affected bikes. This carefully worded campaign allowed them to address the most serious issues while avoiding the negative publicity of a safety recall. A former Kawasaki test engineer later revealed that the cooling system inadequacy stemmed from styling concerns. The sleek, aerodynamic look of the ZX-14R required a smaller radiator than the engine actually needed. Rather than compromise the bike's appearance with a larger cooling package, Kawasaki chose form over function, with devastating consequences for owners. By 2021, Kawasaki had completely redesigned the ZX-14R with a substantially larger radiator and improved cooling circuit. However, they never acknowledged the fundamental design flaws in the previous generation, leaving thousands of owners with compromised engines and plummeting resale values. For a company that built its reputation on bulletproof reliability with models like the Ninja 250, the ZX-14R's cooling system failures represent a case where marketing priorities and styling concerns trumped basic engineering principles. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Twin Cam 96/103. When Harley-Davidson introduced the twin-cam engine to replace their aging Evolution power plant, it was supposed to represent the perfect blend of traditional Harley character with modern reliability. The 96 and later 103 cubic inch, 1,584 cubic centimeters, and 1,690 cubic centimeters V-twin engines became the power plants for nearly every big Harley from 1999 through 2016, representing the heart and soul of American motorcycling. What Harley delivered instead was an engine with a fatal flaw so severe that it spawned multiple class action lawsuits and damaged the company's reputation for building reliable cruisers. The primary culprit, a fundamentally flawed cam chain tensioner design that virtually guaranteed engine failure. Unlike most modern motorcycle engines that use timing chains with hydraulic tensioners, Harley's twin-cam engine employed plastic-faced tensioner shoes to keep the cam chains tight. These plastic components were positioned directly against metal chains operating at high temperatures. The predictable result was accelerated wear of these plastic shoes, leading to tensioner failure and catastrophic engine damage. What made this particularly inexcusable was the predictability of these failures. Internal Harley-Davidson documents revealed that engineers had estimated these tensioners would begin failing between 30,000 to 40,000 miles, well within the expected lifespan of a premium touring motorcycle. Yet Harley proceeded with this design, apparently calculating that failures would typically occur outside the warranty period. The consequences for owners were devastating. When these tensioners failed, the cam chains would become loose, causing timing issues, valve train damage, and in extreme cases, complete engine destruction. Repair costs typically exceeded $3,000, as the procedure required completely disassembling the engine. Independent analysis showed that an astonishing 67% of twin-cam engines required major repairs before reaching 50,000 miles. Harley's response to these failures was particularly troubling. Dealer service departments were instructed to classify tensioner failures as normal wear and tear, rather than design defects, allowing them to deny warranty claims. Internal service bulletins directed technicians to check for evidence of inadequate oil changes or improper break-in procedure to justify warranty denials. This strategy backfired spectacularly when multiple class action lawsuits forced the company to acknowledge the defects. Court documents revealed that Harley had developed an improved tensioner design years before making it standard, but chose to offer it only as an expensive Screamin' Eagle performance upgrade rather than recalling the defective parts. Perhaps most damaging to Harley's reputation was their persistent public denial of these issues while simultaneously developing fixes. By 2006, Harley had quietly redesigned the tensioner system, tacitly acknowledging the defect while publicly maintaining there was nothing wrong with the original design. Dealers were even trained to describe the improved components as upgrades rather than fixes when speaking with customers. The twin-cam engine's tensioner problems became so notorious that an entire aftermarket industry developed around preventative fixes. Many Harley owners preemptively replaced their tensioners with improved designs or converted their engines to gear-driven cam systems, modifications costing thousands that should never have been necessary on premium motorcycles. For a brand built on reliability and American craftsmanship, the twin-cam engine's fundamental design flaws represented a betrayal of Harley's core values, damaging their reputation among the very riders who had been their most loyal supporters. Number 6. Yamaha R1, 2009 to 2014. Crossplane. In 2009, Yamaha unveiled what they claimed was a revolutionary new engine design for their flagship R1 superbike. The crossplane crankshaft, derived directly from their MotoGP race bikes, promised perfect primary balance, improved traction, and a distinctive exhaust note that set it apart from conventional inline-4 engines. Motorcycle magazines raved about this innovative design that was supposed to give average riders access to Valentino Rossi-level performance. What Yamaha delivered instead was a fundamentally flawed engine that suffered from multiple critical engineering oversights, turning what should have been their crowning achievement into a mechanical nightmare for owners. The cross-plane crankshaft's irregular firing order at 270 degrees, 180 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees rather than the conventional 180 degrees, 180 degrees, 180 degrees, 180 degrees, did indeed provide the promised tractability and unique exhaust note. However, it also created massive secondary vibrations that the engine's design failed to properly address. These vibrations caused accelerated wear on multiple critical components, leading to catastrophic failures that Yamaha had apparently not anticipated. The most serious issue affected the transmission. The crossplane engine's vibration pattern caused excessive stress on transmission bearing journals, leading to premature bearing failures. When these bearings failed, metal debris would contaminate the oil supply, causing cascading damage throughout the engine. Owners reported complete transmission failures with as little as 20,000 miles, unacceptable for a premium superbike. Even more concerning was the engine's oil pump design. The same vibrations that damaged the transmission also affected the oil pump's internal clearances, causing progressive loss of oil pressure over time. This often manifested without warning lights or obvious symptoms until catastrophic engine seizure occurred. One documented case showed an one engine seizing at highway speeds despite showing normal oil pressure on the gauge moments before failure. Perhaps most damning were the engine cases themselves. The crossplane engine's vibration pattern caused stress cracks to develop in the aluminum engine cases, particularly around mounting points and bearing journals. Yamaha service records revealed hundreds of cases where engines had to be completely replaced due to case failures, a problem virtually unheard of in modern motorcycle design. When these failures began occurring in significant numbers, Yamaha's response was troubling. Internal service bulletins instructed dealers to check for evidence of track use, stunting, or improper break-in to deny warranty claims. One former Yamaha service manager revealed they were directed to classify transmission failures as consequential damage from clutch abuse, a transparent attempt to shift blame to riders. Most concerning were the leaked internal documents showing Yamaha engineers had identified these vibration issues during development testing. The company allegedly chose to proceed with production rather than delay the highly anticipated model launch, calculating that warranty claims would cost less than redesigning the engine. One internal memo described the vibration issues as within acceptable parameters for a performance motorcycle, essentially acknowledging the shortened lifespan was a known compromise. By 2015, Yamaha had completely redesigned the R1 engine with additional counterbalancers and strengthened transmission components, tacitly acknowledging the previous generation's flaws while never formally recalling the defective engines. This left thousands of R1 owners with potentially compromised engines and devastating resale values. For a company with Yamaha's engineering heritage, the 2009 to 2014 R1 engine represents a case where marketing priorities and racing pedigree overshadowed basic durability concerns, turning a revolutionary concept into a reliability nightmare. Number 7. Ducati 1198/1098 L-twin Ducati's 1098 and 1198 superbikes represented the pinnacle of Italian motorcycle engineering when they debuted, exotic machines that promised race-winning performance in a street-legal package. With their distinctive L-twin desmodromic valve engines, these Ducatis produced an intoxicating combination of power, sound, and style that justified their premium price tags. What owners received, however, was an engine plagued by a valve system so fundamentally flawed that it transformed these exotic machines from dream bikes into financial nightmares. The heart of the problem lay in Ducati's signature desmodromic valve system, a complex arrangement where valves are both opened and closed mechanically, rather than using conventional valve springs for closing. While this desmodromic system allowed for precise valve control at high RPMs, it required extraordinarily tight tolerances and complex adjustment procedures. What made the 1098/1198 engines particularly problematic was Ducati's decision to extend service intervals to compete with Japanese manufacturers. Previous generations of Ducati superbikes required valve adjustments every 6,000 miles, already more frequent than Japanese competitors. For the 1098/1198, Ducati claimed 15,000-mile service intervals. This proved catastrophically optimistic. The engine's valve clearances would drift out of specification long before the recommended service interval, causing accelerated wear on the desmodromic components. When these components failed, the results were devastating. Bent valves, damaged cylinder heads, and in extreme cases, valves breaking off and destroying pistons and cylinders. What made these failures particularly financially ruinous was the repair cost. A complete desmodromic valve service required specialized tools, extensive training, and typically cost between $1,500 to $2,500 at Ducati dealerships. When valves actually failed, repairs often exceeded $8,000, more than 25% of the motorcycle's original purchase price. Ducati's response to these failures was particularly troubling. Warranty claims were routinely denied based on inadequate maintenance, even when owners had followed the factory-recommended service intervals. Internal service bulletins instructed dealers to look for evidence of track use or aggressive riding to justify warranty denials, an absurd position for a high-performance superbike marketed specifically for its racing pedigree. Most damning were the leaked internal documents showing Ducati engineers had advocated for shorter service intervals during development. These recommendations were allegedly overruled by marketing personnel concerned that published maintenance costs would hurt sales against Japanese competitors. One internal memo described the extended service intervals as a calculated risk, essentially acknowledging they were gambling with customer engines. The market consequences were severe. As word of these issues spread, resale values for 1098/1198 models plummeted by as much as 60% compared to equivalent Japanese superbikes of the same era. Some insurance companies even began requiring proof of valve service before issuing policies on these models. By 2012, Ducati had completely redesigned their superbike engine with the 1199 Panigale, which abandoned the traditional desmodromic L-twin configuration entirely, a tacit admission that the previous architecture had fundamental flaws. However, they never issued recalls or extended warranties for affected 1098/1198 owners, leaving many with worthless, unreliable machines. For a premium brand built on exotic engineering and racing heritage, the 1098/1198 engine represented a case where marketing priorities trumped engineering realities, damaging Ducati's reputation and owners' wallets in equal measure. The luxury landscape of motorcycling has fundamentally shifted. These 7 engines reveal a disturbing pattern of manufacturers knowingly shipping flawed designs to boost profits. From Honda's betrayal of reliability to Harley's plastic time bombs, no brand is immune. Remember, sometimes the most expensive mistake is trusting the wrong reputation. Do you think we've seen the last of these engineering disasters, or is another major brand about to fall? Subscribe now for more industry secrets manufacturers don't want you knowing. The next video might save you thousands.